do-gooders, nonconformists, and works in progress. Welcome to The Slow Dive. I'm your host, Farida Rafique. Today, we're diving deep into the worlds of storytelling and screenwriting with a remarkable guest. Joining us is Rory Crittenden, also known as Rory Uscani, a powerhouse storyteller and citizen of the Cherokee Nation. Rory is a 6-time Heartland Regional Emmy winner, celebrated for his work in nonfiction storytelling for his tribe. In 2022, he was awarded Firelight Media's Spark Fund, adding to his growing list of accolades. He's honed his craft as a fellow in the Native American Media Alliance's Feature Film Writers Lab and the TV Writers Lab, and his recent screenplay, Blood, Red, and Going Down, was a finalist at the 2024 Tony Cox Screenplay Competition at the Nantucket Film Festival. A true Cherokee history buff and a passionate pro wrestling fan, Rory lives in Tulsa with his wife, Christy, and their 2 children. He's a freelance filmmaker dedicated to creating impactful media for Indigenous governments, television, and community organizations. So get ready to submerge into an episode that unpacks the layers of storytelling, history, and community with Rory right here on The Slow Dive. Welcome, Rory.
So,
How are you?
I'm doing good, and I think I need to rewrite my bio. You put a lot more pizzazz in it. I'm kind of boring how I wrote it.
No, it's all true. I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm so glad that we're having this discussion. So welcome.
Whoa.
Thank you. Is that what? What were you saying?
Whoa, it's thank you in Cherokee.
Oh, lovely. Okay, what'o is thank you. You're welcome. What is your welcome in Cherokee?
You just kind of say "Hawa," like okay, like kind of acknowledgement that somebody was thankful. It's not exactly the same, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, all right.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we have a first segment. It's basically our icebreaker, so we'll just deep dive right in. What is your favorite Cherokee recipe or tradition you most enjoy?
I don't know that's like particularly like what you're looking for, like a Cherokee tradition, but I grew up in Texas till I was 16, and then we moved back to Stillwell, Oklahoma, and that's kind of like the end of Trail of Tears for a lot of Cherokee people, and that's where my family's from. But every year we would come up to do the Strawberry Festival, and that's just something they do every spring, and that's kind of like my main memory, because it still was a small town. There's not always a whole lot going on, but suddenly it's just swarmed with people during the Strawberry Festival, and that's just kind of what I think of.
So what is your favorite? So Strawberry Festival is your favorite experience, seasonal experience. So what, like strawberry pie, strawberry cookies?
They make like these little strawberry shortcakes that they sell, and like, it's just kind of like they bring a carnival. The Bell Powwow they moved it. It used to always happen the same weekend as the Strawberry Festival, but it was always just a really like crazy weekend. Everybody came in. Everybody lives there is just real tired, and you see relatives. My dad would I might not say that, but well, all right. Relatives would come in, and sometimes people you don't see, so you kind of hide in the back of the house.
I know that feeling sometimes.
That's okay. They don't know who they are.
No, this is great. So Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Stillwell,
Oklahoma. And where is that? Where in Oklahoma is that? For
far northeastern Oklahoma. It's about like half an hour from Arkansas. Like,
oh, okay,
real close to the border. If anybody knows, Tahlequah, I think, is the closest big town in the area. It's about to say Fayetteville, Arkansas, is where we would go to the mall or see a movie typically.
Nice.
And so we just drive over.
Yeah, and we have something in common because we both have a little bit of Texas in our experience. I know that I used to drive into Oklahoma from Dallas a lot, NS Route 66, and also so I love. I think what's really beautiful Oklahoma is just like this, even though it's called still waters, but like just the palatial minimalism of the land and the prairies is just so serene. And I remember one experience, literally like seeing the sunrise and just driving, and just how it's just like this like vastness of like just prairie land, and it's such a calming place, even though you think, oh, because America is so wide and big, but it's so beautiful out there. Really, it is.
Those red sunsets,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
somebody told me that was actually pollution. That makes it so pretty out there.
No, is it really? No, it's not.
I've heard that. I don't know if it's true. I'm
No.
just. It's a rumor, and I'm spreading it.
Okay, Rory. When you're not working in film or developing film or writing film, what else? What are your other creative things that you're doing outside of film?
Oh, creative. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's so.
I don't know. I don't know. I have kids. I don't have time to be creative.
Okay.
Kids. I play video games. Not any good ones. Just like I think a Fallout game came out 6 years ago. It's not great. For some reason, I got hooked on it. I'm still playing it.
Nice.
Tried to get my kid into it. He thought it was too boring.
Oh yeah. Now, are your kids emerging filmmakers? Do you have an influence on them a little bit?
A little bit. My daughter's really interested, and my son's kind of like me. He's kind of too cool for school. At least until he gets older, and because I wasn't super interested in creative things or really like diving deep in the culture until at least my 20s. And so he's just kind of like chilling, playing games. But my daughter is all about it. Anytime anything Cherokee comes up, she wants to know everything. She wants to know words, language. And we live in Tulsa on the Muskogee Nation Reservation. The reservation's touched Cherokee and Muskogee, but we live on the Muskogee side. And so the school teaches her words in Muskogee. And I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way. It's like, I need to get her back home to learn Cherokee.
Yeah. No, I thank you for sharing that. Well, we'll just go right into our first segment, Rory. I know we had a chance to talk before our interview, and we were talking about film in Oklahoma and storytellers out of Oklahoma. And a lot of us in the LA bubble trap kind of fall into this trap of developing stories that are kind of one note. So for me, at least, I think as a producer, I like to seek screenplays from writers all over America. Especially the heartland, because I just see so many great scripts that come out of Texas and the Midwest and the heartlands. Just the stories are just so unique and interesting, and my goal as a producer is just to bring a lot of that to the LA, because I think a lot of us get trapped into the one note producing. Tell me, what are you working on right now? Is there something you're working on that you can share with us? Is there a film that you're working on?
A couple things. I've been writing a short film with a friend of mine. We spoke earlier before we got on about a documentary. So I worked on a feature-length documentary with Sean Duncan and Kelly Gonzalez, are Cherokee filmmakers, producers. And they did this documentary called We Will Speak with Blurry Pictures, Michael McDermott and Jason Kessler. And it was a feature-length documentary about the Cherokee language. And I'd just come off a rough job and got to meet all of them. And it was really, I ended up becoming like the second unit director, which was essentially like, they were scattered all over the place, but I knew how to work a camera and a drone. And so second unit was basically doing pickup shots or getting there's a really great Cherokee country artist named Golly Sieg Mackey, and I got to meet him and film with him, and his song is in the early part of the movie, and a lot of the stuff I filmed is there. Anyways, I got to meet Sean there, and we started collaborating a little bit. We've been writing a short film, but it's, things happen and it's getting stretched out. Also, things are it's a little rough in Hollywood with screenwriting. It's a little tough to do anything, and trying to stay positive. And I think a good way to do that is just kind of like scratch that itch, maybe doing something else. And so I've started outlining a book.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah, it's going to kind of deal with Native identity in media, like as far as like, as a Native person, when you kind of get outside your community, a lot of times you will be the only clearly Native person that someone has met. And so you almost feel like you're always having to be a representative. So you don't want to disappoint people. And
True.
A funny thing some people do is they'll put on kind of like the stoic Indian persona. They'll go, just kind of talk a little bit less and start, kind of playing up almost like a movie style Indian, So
No, yes, definitely. We're going to talk about representation and
uh,
how sometimes getting labeled and confined, like it does limit our limit some opportunities if that's like the stereotype and stuff. But I definitely want to know, like, first of all, the Oklahoma film scene.
mm,
What is that like over there? What kind, like, I know we have amazing storytellers and filmmakers all over the United States, but what is the Oklahoma film scene like? I mean, where you're at, like, are people just like making great? Is it more of a
yeah,
documentary, or like, what's it like? Share, and if you don't mind.
yeah. I think everybody here is just really scrappy.
Mhm.
There's not a big industry here, and anybody that is doing it is, you know, they're really climbing uphill or swimming upriver, and so they love it and they're fighting to continue doing it. So there's been some progress in the last few years. Oklahoma rebate has expanded,
Mhm.
but Killers of the Flower Moon came in, and I think those 2 years ate up the whole rebate.
Wow,
And
yes. What were your thoughts on that movie, if you feel like sharing? Did you
oh man,
enjoy it?
it's been a while since I've seen it. It was really positive the first time. They what well, I can kind of tell you what happened with it is they came here and they did that. I'm Cherokee, and it's Osages. The movie
Mhm.
is about dealing with the Osages. They had started it and were ready to go, and then the pandemic hit, and it put everything on a pause. And during the pause, Scorsese really got to know Chief Standing Bear, and Standing Bear kind of got in his ear and put some ideas in there. And Scorsese really started listening to Osage people, and they were having these meetings, and DiCaprio was there too, like just meeting with Osage people in Pawhuska and their communities. And so they took a lot of suggestions, because
Mhm.
the book was not written by Osage people; it was written by a white man. And
Oh.
so there's a lot of things that they would kind of like, this wasn't quite
Mm.
right, this, that. And the opening scene where the ancestors are like picking up a pipe and things, that's from a book written by an Osage man called A Pipe for February. I wish I remembered his name.
Right, for February,
Yeah,
okay.
but that's a lot of that book was kind of interspersed into that movie, because it was Osage people were like, this is Osage, look at these kind of things. I
Yeah,
think
so I mean, it is important for filmmakers and producers to seek community feedback to get accurate representation and
it
to
is not
protect.
always that way.
But it isn't, right?
No, no.
So what would be the ideal scenario, Rory, if someone's like, we want to develop a film and we want to showcase uh, a community, like in your opinion, because you're not only a screenwriter, prolific
Mhm.
screenwriter, you won awards. You're also Emmy award winning filmmaker and producer as well. So, like, what would you advise someone who's wanting to do a project or a film and work in collaboration with a Native American community or on that topic? What would you advise to someone to how to
Uh,
research and prepare, perhaps?
Honestly, the easiest thing to do would be like those above the line roles that your directors, producers, screenwriters find Native people to do it.
Mhm.
Hopefully from the community that you're portraying, because if if someone had come to me with an Osage movie, I'd be like, I don't know, it's we were enemies 150 years ago. It's kind of
Yeah,
like the cultures are not that similar, but a lot of your general like American doesn't know that.
yeah.
So fill as many roles as you can with Native people, and a Native person is going to kind of know what they don't know. Uh, Typically, they're not going to pretend to know something. Uh, just work with the community as much as possible. I want to name names, but I had a friend that was they are a historian, and they consulted on I'm gonna be vague. they, they consulted on a type of Western, and there was a scene about like a sweat lodge or something like that, and the character that was putting on like this particular ceremony was Cherokee, and they were telling them like, hey, Cherokees, it's not really like a common thing, like especially if they're culturally Cherokee to do that, and they just like ignored them and did it anyway.
Oh,
Like it's just a lot of things like that. They're like, well, they were basically just checking a box, bringing on a expert,
I think you
doing what they
said
want to do anyway.
Yeah, no, Rory, you really highlighted a very important thing, and I love that you're sharing this. Is that instead of like, I think the best accurate representation or the best that we can do is like definitely put people in the positions above the line who are Native American, who that is their lived in experience, and there's
And they
plenty
do
of
exist.
filmmakers. Yeah, there are plenty of
Yeah.
filmmakers and creatives in America right now. And I know there's wonderful organizations that have a database to connect you with that. So there's absolutely no reason why, we can't do that. And I think that goes for a lot of communities, but especially Native American communities. I do agree with that because a lot of yeah, I think it's like I think we can share this. It was kind of funny because I had you on my list as a guest for a while for my newbie podcast because you were in that accelerator, the Film North Accelerator, which was the socially conscious and inclusive lab. It's a mouthful, but you submitted a really great piece, and Jake and I were like, wow, he'd be great in our lab, he'd be awesome. And I remember I was like, I have to interview Rory, and there's a couple of other wonderfully talented people from that year as well, and I was like, I have to bring them on and talk to them about their projects. But then it didn't even occur to me. You're like, oh yes, it's November because you're like,
right.
And then I'm like, oh my god, no, that's not why. If this was October, but then I'm like, wait a second, it is November. It is a weird thing. It's awkward, but you said it.
Are you telling me you didn't do this on purpose? You'd bring me?
No, I didn't. But then when we had our pre-interview chat, I was like, oh my god. It is
November's always very busy for Native filmmakers, Native people in general. Yeah. If you're a Native professional in November, you're booked. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed because the truth is I really, yes, we definitely need to highlight and spotlight everything. But I also was like, I don't want you to think that's the only
all the other months of the year too, though. Like,
no, because you're doing amazing work. And there was a vampire project that you were working on. Are you still working? Because that was the piece that got you into the lab. So I'm just curious. Yeah, because I think you shared that project in your application, and we were like, oh, a Native American vampire story. What is that like? That is so cool.
Yeah, that was Blood Red and Going Down. I did that in the so I applied to the Native American Media Alliance. It's put on by the Barsid Foundation. They do the Skins Fest, which I'm going to be at next week. This probably won't be out by then, but they do like great work. There's a lot of like Native organizations that try to get Native people into film and stuff. But I've applied for a lot of programs through all of them, and I almost never even get like a phone call back. But NAMA, the Native American Media Alliance, they read my work, and I was getting interviews, and they've really kind of like championed me as like a writer, because like that can be really disheartening. You're applying to these things that in your mind, like these are your people, and if they're rejecting you, it's like, man, I must not be any good. But like I can tell that they really take into account the work, and maybe not throw anybody under the bus, but some others may just be looking just get names that are maybe already established through their ranks and on their rosters of former things. They're really into helping Native people learn to screenwrite, because these opportunities are not like readily available. Here in Oklahoma, I could have never it's the teachers that the screenwriting teachers that they get for us come from AFI. They teach at AFI too in California. And so like you're getting the proper education, you're able to write a script that somebody's going to be able to look at and not immediately throw in the trash because it's formatted wrong, or you didn't know how to, write dialogue.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm a big champion of those people. They do really good work, and I feel like they don't get the credit they deserve.
No, but I think our podcast episode might actually come out soon. Drew's really amazing at his turnaround time, but I don't want to speak for him, but he does a great job. So we might have it in time before your the Skins Fest. Talk to me about tell us about Skins Fest and Native American Media Alliance, and how important both those organizations are, and what they're
I think I kind of covered a little bit. They're just really helpful. I've been in 4 different labs, but that NAMA has put on. And Skins Fest is a big film festival they do every year in November. And
Yeah.
because it's when people want to see us. But
Oh.
as a funny aside, when I was in kindergarten, I grew up in Dallas, outside
Mhm.
Dallas. My kindergarten teacher was so excited to have a real Native American in her class at Thanksgiving, and so she wanted me to play the Indian in the Thanksgiving play. And I was like, man, I want that. I want that weird funnel gun. I want that hat with a buckle on it. I want that stuff. So because I was like, I don't get to have any of that cool stuff that they're carrying, you know. And so apparently, my parents, I don't remember this. My parents told me I put up a big fight about it,
Oh,
and
wow.
I made everything awkward for everyone.
No, you know what? It's not. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you made it awkward for everyone, because I think this is a really. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think these are like awkward conversations, but they're important conversations too,
Mm.
right? Like, because in order to understand everyone's experience and have a little better understanding, I think we sometimes have to ask stupid questions. That's why I'm like, I yeah, like something you just said struck me. That's when everybody wants to see us is in November. But yeah, that
Well,
we
I think it's Native
no.
American Heritage Month, and
Yeah.
a lot of people like you might think it's crazy. People think we don't still exist. Like they think we're like a long lost memory, and are white people from the South's distant ancestors. Like
Mm.
they all think they're Cherokee, uh, but like
God.
it's you will run into people that adamantly think that you don't exist. Like it's crazy. They will tell you to your face that like no, the Indians died out. There's no
Wow.
Native Americans left. It's super weird.
Rory, I think you hit a very, very important point there. And I'm so happy that you're sharing this because I think one of the goals of this podcast is for us to have a more better understanding and be less, I'll just speak for myself, for me to be less ignorant and to be more
Mm.
understanding. And what does that feel like when someone says that to you? Like, I mean,
You get
what does that feel like? I mean, tell us from your
I'm,
experience, like,
to be honest, you get used to it, and it's just kind of like it's just where your head's at. Like it's just again that you run to it so often that if you are angry every time, like
mhm.
you just how could you live? You know, like I used to work in the Cherokee casino, and I was a server in the restaurant, and I had a braid. A lot of people are maybe not like outwardly like. Hang on, let me think of a proper term right now.
Okay.
Uh, Cherokee presenting, native presenting. A lot of people present as like white people and stuff. And so I would have like a shorter, like when I was a server, I had a shorter beard and I had a long braid. And people would say, "Excuse me, sir, but are you really Cherokee?" I go, "Yes, I am." And they go, "Well, I'm a little Cherokee too." You know, and I was like, "Oh, hey," I wouldn't get mad. I know it's just a thing that they heard in their family.
Mm,
Sometimes they are. You can't tell if someone's native by looking at them.
yeah.
The diversity in Native America is as diverse as the United States.
Mhm.
There's black natives. There's uh, people that are like Asian and native, white native. It's so. I apologize if I used a weird term that I was at the top of my head. It's like there's particular terms like I can't remember them all.
No, no, I think this is really important, that I'm really glad that we're talking about this because like I said, I want to be respectful but I think a lot of us sometimes feel awkward.
Mm,
Like, okay, I think I kind of mentioned this to you in our pre-conversation before our interview, before today, that I was just speaking to a friend of mine who she's wonderful, and I'm so comfortable with her. I was like, "Do you prefer Black or African American?" Right?
mm,
Like, which and then I have another friend, she's like, "Well, I'm not African American, I'm Caribbean." But
mm.
I'm Caribbean African, Afro Caribbean. And I'm like, "Okay, so how would I know if I didn't ask?" And I think a lot of us just as a Muslim American, I'm South Asian, and people kind of lump all South Asians either we're all Indian or all Pakistani or we're all this or all Muslims are Arabs, and that's not true either. There's Muslims that are in
Mm.
South Asia, and then I'm also so for me, it's like okay, well, I want to be better, and I want to be respectful of everyone's identity, their experience. So I'm just going to be that awkward one who's going to be like, well, what do you prefer? Like, what is the best? Like, as an American whose family was an immigrant to this country, I was born here, but obviously I'm South Asian and everything. People always ask me like, where are you from? And I'm like, Chicago. I was born in Chicago and I grew up in Texas, but no, really, where are you from? I'm like,
that gets really funny with natives because they'll say, where are you from? And I go, I grew up in Dallas, but my family's from Oklahoma. They go, no, where are you from? I go, Georgia. The country? No, the state. No, like, where are you from? Like, if you're not white, you got to be from somewhere else, they think, And so you're like, Georgia. And you just let them go and go and go. But like, I'm Cherokee. My family was removed from Georgia. Come on.
No, it's true. And I mean, and that's the thing. Like, and some people, like I said, I have, I don't want to put anybody in a box and be like, sometimes it's just like, it is just ignorance. People mean well, but because unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, not to get political, stuff has just been kind of slowly, I don't know, faded out of history from stuff, and people just and because of that, that's why these really ignorant questions come up. Like, where are you from? Like, what do you mean where I'm from? I'm from America.
Man, I heard about
I'm Native American. I'm Native American. I'm from America. No, but where are you from? Like
the Washington football team. We can't say the name.
Yes,
the name is considered a slur, and somebody will scream and yell and argue. And I remember, I may get it wrong. I think it was. I don't want to say the wrong name, but there was a journalist that was a native journalist that was in DC at the time, and when there was a lot of controversy going over, and they were kind of walking down the street, and I guess maybe they had like some beadwork or a T-shirt, something that basically signaled they were native, and they said they were just like accosted on the street by people going, "Don't change the name, keep the name." Yeah, just like wild people that are just so upset over, getting rid of a football team slur.
Yeah.
Just back to like what I think we're talking about, like what people prefer to be identified as. Not that one. That one's pretty clear. You're being negative, and so you can usually tell, like, if somebody says Native American, Indian, American Indian, you can usually tell someone's meaning by their cadence or inflection.
Yes.
And so you can usually tell when somebody means well. And that goes back to that, like, you can't be mad all the time, or otherwise you'll just be mad all the time. But I don't get offended at like Indian if the way you say it. That can be just depending on cadence and maybe the way you are using it. Can be tough sometimes. American Indian's usually a little more proper. It's used in like legal paperwork. We're used to it.
So I know we were talking about this earlier. So within your community, you can call it you say native, or you just say.
I think I just say native typically. Like I'm trying to think. I usually say native filmmakers, native. That's typically what I use, I guess. Unless we're talking specifics, then you usually try to use someone's main tribal affiliation that they identify with, because a lot of people are multiple tribes, whichever one they mainly identify with, or if they use two, you say both.
Okay, no, this is good. This is very educational. I'm learning, and I appreciate this, because I think
I am a high school graduate, by the way, so that's my credentials.
No, well, what does that have to like? Yeah, I mean, don't even have to say that. I mean, I think it's great. I think, this is the thing, Rory. Everyone has unique skills and talents and gifts that they're contributing to the world. I truly believe that. If we use education as a standard, then we're all lost. Because the truth is, I think everyone is uniquely themselves, and they all are individuals for a purpose. So what you bring into the world, I can't. Drew can't. What Drew brings into the world, I can't. We are such individuals within this global community. So I always say, I go, you know what? This conversation right here that we're having is illuminating to me, because I feel comfortable enough to ask you a stupid question like, what is the right term? Because if I have Native American friends, how should I address them so I'm respectful without,
I will. Some people will get mad no matter what, and address them properly. But I think most, and there is kind of difference between people that kind of live rurally, maybe on reservations, maybe away from the cities.
What are some of the stereotypes and tropes now in modern pop culture that you wish could be clarified, or that that are still prevalent, that lend to like negative stereotypes of Native American communities and Native Americans? Is there anything that's like you think should be better, or shows that could be doing better, or
Oh
or
yeah.
reversely, is there any show or television series right now that's doing a great job in representing Native American communities and culture on screen? And if there is, please share, because I know there's great films. And of course, we kind of went in on Killers of the Flower Moon, and was it Pipe for February by the Osage? Uh,
Osage, yeah.
Osage, sorry,
Yeah.
Osage. But is there any TV series that you think are doing a good job in representing Native American voices and
Well,
culture
well,
on
well,
screen?
well, clearly the best ones are, Rutherford Falls, which was canceled, and that was on Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
Sierra Teller Ornelas was a showrunner, I think, with Mike Schur,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, clearly you had natives in the writers' room. You had a native showrunner, and Reservation Dogs. That's Starlin
Yeah.
Harjo and Taika Waititi's show. Clearly, those are the front runners. You're not going to find a whole lot of, and if there's stereotypes in them, it's because they're making fun of them. They're highlighting them. There's a whole episode of Rutherford Falls that was kind of making fun of Yellowstone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good watch. I forget the title of it, but if you want to see a native perspective on Yellowstone, they come in as like kind of what I explained about that friend. They come in as kind of helping them understand culture, and they just completely ignore them. And so then they just start telling them
Yeah.
crazy wrong things. So it's a really good episode.
No.
So Prey, I think it's Dan Trachtenberg. I think was the director of that. They brought in Jane Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
She's
What is the
a
show? Prey.
Prey. It's a
Yes.
Predator sequel that was on
Yes.
Hulu a
Yes.
couple
Yes.
years
Yes.
back. They brought in Jane Myers, who's I believe is Comanche, and the tribe is Comanche in Prey. And as far as I understand, they're pretty happy with that movie, and they listened is the main thing. And you can tell by like how the community receives the movie whether they did a good job or not.
So let me ask you another question, Rory, while we have you here. Are you doing projects that represent Native American characters or stories? Are you writing from your experience, or do you sometimes do something different? What are your thoughts about being limited or not limited to certain types of stories? Because I find, like, for me, I'll give you just a reflection point. People expect me to only write South Asian or Muslim narratives, or develop or produce stuff that's
Mm.
along. Of course, I feel like I can speak to that because of my history and experience, but I can do other stuff too. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we have an American experience too, just as Americans. I don't, I'm not living like Cherokees did 150 years ago. I
Yeah.
have a house, like we're on the internet right now.
Yes, we
Uh,
are.
so one of the things, so when I'm writing, I don't know that I'm the best. I don't speak for all Cherokee people.
Mhm.
I'll make that 100% clear. I'm a weirdo. And so I'm like, that Blood Red Going Down script you were talking about,
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
a vampire movie about a woman taking a job in Georgia, and the vampire is like a 300-year-old weird Cherokee man that got turned at removal, and he's trying to take over like the homelands, and he's trying to find people to turn and take it over with him. And so a lot of things is like, if you put one of my scripts to like if the tribe had to approve it, they go, oh man, this is rough. There's some weird things happening here. Like it wouldn't they wouldn't say it was representative of the tribe,
Mhm.
because that's that would be like a PR thing. And so I think something that when we're kind of talking about stereotypes of Native people is that Native people can be the villains too. Like they're a lot of times there's a when Native people aren't involved, there's not like Native scumbags in the story ever. So everyone is like a pure child of the earth that can do no wrong, that has only been wronged, and uh, it's great to like we've met jerks in our communities. That those end up being characters in our stories. Uh, I think that is kind of the main one. When people aren't Native and doing Native stories, they're too afraid to make a villain that's Native. But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also it's kind of weird. Like if the protagonists are not native and the villain's native, that's where you start going, oh well.
Mm. No,
Because
you
that
made a very important point. That's true. That's true. Yeah, if we had more films with
mm,
more representation in characters and more ensemble cast as Native American and that are like, yes, then you could probably say it. But because there's only very few people, I think, and I don't speak for all people, but I see why they would be afraid to create a villain character, because then it would be like, oh
yeah,
my gosh, that's a negative framing. And that's also
C-
not,
Custer had scouts. Those guys were assholes.
yeah.
They were native, but Custer had scouts.
Hmm.
So like those are villains.
No, I think that's the thing. And I think creative people and writers and artists, we do a good job of kind of like we can see everything on a spectrum in the sense where good and bad exists in every one of us.
Mm,
But I think when it comes to actually bringing stuff to the screen, there's so many people between that idea till when it gets made, and it goes through so many different steps that it may not even be the same story. And that's for the bigger budgets. But for the one of the things I do like about independent film is that you can stick to to your authentic story or your original script, because you're not working with $4 million budget. You're probably
mm,
working with like 50,000 or 200,000. And that is, I think, some of the freedoms, and which leads me to our last segment, the future of entertainment.
mm.
I would love to know, what are your thoughts on like where we're going in the entertainment industry? Like with AI, like what would you want the ideal scenario? Are you afraid for filmmakers and indie filmmakers, or do you think we should be hopeful? Just something to share, since we're all kind of
Yeah,
mulling on this right now in this weird time in the industry.
yeah. I had a thought real quick just about something before.
Yes, go
Is
ahead.
a lot of times, like when they're bringing in like a native consultant on a movie,
Mm-hmm.
they usually do it after they've already paid a screenwriter that was not native to write a script.
Oh,
They've already brought on all these producers who have already got their friends in positions all over the project. And then they realized, oh, we never hired a Native American for this movie that heavily features Native Americans.
wow.
And so they will try to bring in like a consultant like way late in the game. And the consultant will be like, you have to do none of this. You have to like start from scratch. And so if you're making a native film, start at the beginning, like get those people in those roles, the writer, if you're dead set on a writer, get them like, there's all kinds of you'll see a movie that has like 3 screenwriters on it. Don't be proud. Just get your movie made. Make sure you're doing things right. Don't wait until the very end. Get native people involved early on,
Mm-hmm.
because
No,
I've heard that
that's a
happen so many
really
times.
important. No, no, no. Yeah. When we're building out the pipeline, build your team with that intention that you want to bring authentic representation by employing people from that community who are also screenwriters and producers and who are looking for producer jobs and writing jobs and are writing their experiences. So why exactly? I agree that
They think they don't exist, or that we don't exist. You just have to like do a little bit of googling. I don't know.
no.
You'll find us.
Yes, I think that is kind of like lazy producing,
Mm,
um, where it's like I just want to make a movie, and sometimes to me, and this is an opinion, please listeners don't get mad. I only speak on it seems extractive. It's very
mm,
extractive practice. It's like, you know what? I like that South Asian character, or I like that Muslim Arab character fits well into the kind of project I'm doing, but I'm not going to hire a Muslim American to be on that project or
mm,
an Arab person to play that part. It seems extractive. That's the word I will use, extractive, because you're not giving back, you're taking. And for me, like one of the things I've learned is that um, there needs to be reciprocity in storytelling
mm.
as well,
Right.
where we all are living and coexisting on this planet as creatives, but there has to be reciprocity. I learned from you, you learned from me. How do we collaborate this together with respect and like and like proper representation and having an uncomfortable conversation. So you're right. Like, I mean, you made some really, really, really important things that I think
The respect goes a long way. The respect goes a long way, because I've had opportunities that maybe would have shaken out and been fine, but they were, there was a very clear idea that they're doing me a favor by bringing me on this thing that they didn't think to bring a native on until the last minute, And I've ended up ghosting a couple projects like that probably would have paid decent.
Yeah.
But I was just like, are they going to listen to me? Do I want my name on this?
Yeah, and that's another thing. When you lend your name, time, and energy to anything, and someone is wanting that to be extractive, then it's not balanced. It's not fair and balanced. And I think, I mean, a lot of us feel silence sometimes. We can't openly share those talks, but I know a lot of producers have those tough conversations off record, like, man. But there's so many steps to getting something funded, to getting a film made, and I just hope that all of us can be more intentional in the kind of stories we're telling. And also, the other thing is, yes, you're Native American. Yes, someone is that, but ultimately, we're all storytellers. And we all have a lot to learn from each other. So why not just that too? Like, so if you're not doing Native American stuff, you're doing other stuff too. It's not like that's the only stories you can tell or the only films you're going to produce or have produced, right? So
there's such a weird attitude to it. Like I was telling you when we had a conversation the other day about that. I was helping pitch a series that was about Native American social issue. And the producer was just like 10 minutes in, you can see their eyes glaze over and they're like, you just tell they weren't going to buy it or like, facilitate it moving along. And they kind of gave us a talk after that just said, Native American stories, this is a niche market. It's never going to sell, da, 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 da.
Wow.
And then like a few months later, Dark Winds goes on Netflix and it's like number 4 on top viewed television shows. Sidney Freeland's Resball, one of the top viewed movies on, it's not.
I think
it's not true.
I think the risk.
It's not niche.
No, it's not niche. But here's the thing: sometimes I see this in like some other genres and spaces and cultural narratives as well. Like one person off record. Well, it's on record. It's on Spotify now and on Apple Podcasts. But I will say, I'm not mentioning names. Said, how come you haven't made a South Asian film with a South Asian protagonist? I've made a few films. They're not incredibly successful, but I'm glad I'd made them. They're from my heart, and I felt like I needed to do it. And I haven't done something that's a South Asian narrative because, I've never been to South Asia as an adult. I went as a kid, and then I went recently now since that conversation I have. But like, I didn't grow up in South Asia. I grew up in America. So of course, for me, I'm like, okay. And they're like, no, but why don't you make one of your films? And I was like, okay, is that how it works? Like I have to first make a South Asian American film in order to be taken seriously as a producer? Maybe. These are like really great people. They're not bad people. It's just.
But then when you make that movie, they go, "Oh, we're not making a South Asian movie right now."
Yeah, and the reason why is because it hasn't been done. It's not tried and true. And the thing is that everything before you do it is new. The thing is, it's always new. How do we know that the audience is not going to like something if we don't present them with options?
Right.
But if we keep on serving the same thing over and over, and yes, they're familiar. Like I like pizza. I can probably, if I need to eat pizza every day, or I like ice cream, I will have ice cream. Well, I won't have ice cream every day because that's not good for you. But what I'm saying is, ideally, if I could get away with eating ice cream every day, I would have it every day. But that doesn't mean that I may not want to try tiramisu. I haven't tried tiramisu. And I know these are horrible analogies because I'm probably hungry. But the point is that people don't know what they don't know. Right? So you have to create that database, that curate that collection of stories and films and content, and then bring that reach and visibility so people can then be like, oh, I like this too. This is cool too. Yes, I'm watching a series on Native American characters and their community, but it's a comedy too. I'm laughing and I love it. And there are a lot of shows that have done that successfully, like, like on networks in the past. But I feel like with all the money that there is, there could be more development for more of that, and that's the thing, like who's going to make those decisions? It's not me. I'm not the executive in charge acquiring or buying projects. I wish I was. I'm not. But
something I was surprised by, that show, what is it about the fungus zombies? It was a video, The Last of Us. That was a series Craig Mazin did, and
yes,
I was very surprised. There's a scene in it, I think about halfway through, they come across an elderly Native couple, and it was the most like realistic Native couple I've seen on TV. Like they're making fun of each other. They're there to rob them, and they're making fun of the robbers. Natives are funny, and it was just like it is. I don't know if any Native creatives were involved, but it was just like perfect. Whatever they researched they did, I don't know. That was really good.
No, that's a good hopeful note. So, future of entertainment. Are you
right. Right, I forget. I completely didn't answer the question. I remember now.
No, it's okay. We went on a good tangent. I think we had a very important discussion right there, and I think I'm being very vulnerable by just sharing how sometimes I feel ignorant and stupid in spaces, and I'm like, you know what? The best way to disarm that feeling is just ask and learn. Mm-hmm. And for the sake of sounding stupid, I'm like, well, Rory, thank you for illuminating that, because I think, I appreciate that. Well, what would be your ideal collaboration or your ideal project, if you can put it out there in the universe? What would you like to work on next?
I grew up watching like horror movies and action films on like in Texas. It was like WB-33, and so it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Alien, Predator, and they already beat me to that. They get Prey out. Just a Native action movie, a Native horror film. I'm writing. I wrote Blood Red and Going Down the Vampire one. I also did a pilot that's kind of like a Native take on Stranger Things.
No, nice.
Monsters coming out of the lake, and just something. I love sci-fi because I get bored if things are just like normal. And yeah.
And do you see yourself ever implementing AI in any of your works?
I think everybody will. My wife showed me something the other day that was like, I'm an editor too. You live in Oklahoma, you learn how to do a lot of things. Drone operator, editor, I can shoot, write, direct, but she showed me something that was like something Adobe Premiere is doing. And it's just the bane of an editor is if, somebody cuts too early because you don't have that kind of space to then transition to the next shot or scene. There's something they're implementing, like it may already be implemented, that just extends the scene a few seconds. And I was like, I already know I'm going to use that. That is such a useful tool, because that's what AI is good for. It's just kind of extending like a scene for a couple seconds. But it's not creative. It does extract, but it is taking from the shot you already have. And so these things that they call like generative AI, they're feeding it a lot of things that already exist. It's copywritten things. And so if you're going to have it and it be copyright free, and you're not just feeding your own IP into it, you're having a pull from 100 years ago. So it's not that useful, So you still need your creatives, you still need your writers, your directors, your cinematographers. You still need all these people. You're not doing away with anything.
Yeah.
And they kind of think, I get the sense that studios think they are. They're like, wow, we're going to cut out all these whiny creatives and finally just make some slop that everyone's going to love. It's not going to work, and they're wasting everyone's time.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, we're winding down to our time, Rory. It's been a really enlightening conversation, but we do have a reflective segment that we close out every of our episodes, called Listen, Reflect, and Connect.
Right.
On a serious note, when you hear about, let's say, genocide or anything like that that's happening in the planet, or not, how does that, like, do you feel any, how does that, this is such a stupid question. I had it written really eloquently, but like, for example, how is Thanksgiving for you? Like, do you participate in that at all? Because
it's, maybe when I was a teenager, I was real, mad and angry, and I was like, this is, you say I can cuss, it's fucking stupid. When I was a teenager, I was just like, oh man, this is dumb. why is what thankful for it, and especially because of all the imagery. They're like, wow, because it seems like, oh, they helped us survive, and then what happened? It's silly and weird. We don't call it Thanksgiving. We have the week off, so we get together anyway. We basically celebrate it, but we don't say it's Thanksgiving. Coming down Thanksgiving
use the
week.
time and have a holiday, or just have a party and have a get together with friends and family, or just
it is almost exactly the same as someone's Thanksgiving. Like
okay.
the same foods and everything, because it's what's out. Okay. You also having an American experience too.
Yes. Yes.
But I don't know. It was just
I was just curious about that because, like I said, there's so much around that, like you said, this month and everything.
When I was a much meaner teenager, I thought I was fucking dumb. But as I get older, it's like, it's just, it's what it is.
Do you have turkey?
There is turkey, but I eat ham.
Okay. I don't eat ham, but we have turkey.
My dad deep fried a turkey one year. That was pretty good.
Okay.
But other than that, not really.
Wow. No, that's very cool. I love that you shared that. Okay. One last question. How do we respond to the hate in the world as humans?
Oh, man. I think the best thing to do typically is laugh at it. Because it's stupid. It's silly. And I don't think I'm not a huge fan of, this is the example that came to my mind. Please don't write me an email because I'm not going to read it. Donald Trump is a silly person, a silly human being full of hate. And I think there's so much to make fun of, but there's kind of, I think in the mid 2010s, when they go low, we go high. I don't think that was the right thing to do. I think he's but you don't want to be fat phobic. You don't want to make fun of people. I'm like, someone like that, I think it's okay sometimes. Just make fun of them because it reduces their power. They're a narcissistic turd. Just tear them down. When someone's being hateful, don't point your nose up and let them walk over you.
Yeah, I think that's
point out the hypocrisy. Call them stupid. His silly long tie and his orange face.
All right. Yeah. Well, Rory, I think I really appreciate you joining us today. I know I learned a lot. And let me. And how do we pronounce your last name? Is Uskani?
Oh, Rory Crittenden's my English name. My Cherokee name is Uskan.
Uskan.
And I'm named after my great grandfather. In Cherokee culture, you get your Cherokee name from it's usually your grandma or your oldest living Cherokee relative, female relative. And she named me after her dad, who was the first person arrested for murder in Adair County in Oklahoma. And he was just a miserable guy. So Uskan kind of means grumpy, kind of mean, And so I was kind of morose kid. And so she kind of looked at me and she's like, Uskan, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Rory, I am really excited to see all your stories come to screen and share them with the world. I'm really excited about your vampire horror story, particularly, but all the stuff that you're doing. So continue creating, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed The Slow Dive, please subscribe and leave us a positive review wherever you get your podcasts. The Slow Dive is hosted by Farida Rafique, edited by Drew Fransplat. Our theme song is Dive by Sarah. Thanks for listening.